99 and 44 100s. You were just telling me who wrote that song.
Yeah, Eddie Rabbitt wrote that song. And Eddie Rabbitt also wrote a song for Elvis called Kentucky Rain.
Yes, he did.
I played on that session in Memphis.
What was it like? You and Eddie Rabbitt were singing backup to Elvis?
No, actually, we had backup singers on those sessions, but Eddie had written the song Kentucky Rain.
Mm-hmm.
And Elvis liked it, and he wanted to record it.
Now, did Mac Davis write In the Ghetto?
Yes, he did. Yes, sir.
That was an amazing set of folks that were coming through Elvis's orbit at that time.
Well, it's a strange thing because I've been living in Atlanta, and I went to college, like you were talking about.
You're not good for my story because you were successful. But.
Well, I was out of Raleigh. I was taught at the Governor Moorhead School for the Blind, a residential school in Raleigh. And they taught me Braille at 6, violin at 7, piano at 8. So I had like 12 years of classical training, but I also was really good academically in school. And they said, "You've done so well, you deserve a scholarship to go to college. Where do you want to go to college?" I said, "Anywhere but here in North Carolina. I want to get out." So I went to a school in North Georgia called Young Harris. One of the highlights of that whole thing at college was Zell Miller. He was my political science teacher. And, I got to thinking about it. He was so good, he almost convinced me an academic life wouldn't be too bad. But then I went to a Ray Charles concert in Atlanta. And
that changed everything.
It did. I went. The pilot got me into Ray's dressing room. Ray comes in after his show, and I said, "Mr. Ray Charles, you are truly the high priest, and I've got all your records, and I love your music."
And that changed it all?
Yeah. He said, well, there was a piano in the dressing room. He said, "Play me something." So I played him 3 songs, and I told him I was going through this dilemma about trying to decide whether I wanted to be a lawyer. I said, "But I'd really love to be in music," and I played him these 3 songs. He said, "Well, son, you can be a lawyer if you want to, but there's a lot of music in your heart. If I were you, I'd follow what my heart tells me to do."
Was one of those songs "Let's Go Get Stoned"?
Yeah.
Now, I'm something of a libertarian on the issue of drug policies. So I don't know. What does "Let's Go Get Stoned" mean?
That's actually about getting stoned on alcohol.
Okay.
That's what it is. Written by great songwriters, Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson. I'd recorded a couple of songs in New York, and I had a top 5 rhythm and blues record. Most people who were playing my records at that time thought I was a black artist.
You're not black?
I check every now and then to find. A lot of people,
how can you tell?
A lot of
is
people
there a way to tell these things?
A lot of people still think I am.
I'm afraid you're about to start telling crass jokes on a family show.
But right around after I got out of college, because I got my Bachelor of Arts degree, and it hasn't done me any good. But
they don't charge $1 more per concert ticket because of your BA?
No, they don't. Of course they don't.
And your BS is pretty good, though.
Yeah, I guess so, if I had one.
I've always appreciated your BS.
But living in Atlanta, by then I was married and moved to Memphis for a while. Joyce and I moved to Memphis. A record producer named Chip Smolman said, "If you'll move to Memphis, I'll get you to record at my studio." And one of the first things he did, he got me to play on these Elvis Presley recordings in 1969. Kentucky Rain, and Elvis said, "Hey, more thunder on the piano, Milsap." And it was a great time, having a chance to do the recordings, but I could not make that happen in Memphis. So it really didn't happen for me until I got to Nashville in 1973.
And that was "I Hate You"?
Yeah.
That's
and a contract with RCA, and that really was what made it.
Please don't tell me how the story ends.
Yeah.
Is there a song that Chris Christopherson didn't write in that era? It's unbelievable.
Well,
that man's body of work.
He's a great songwriter, man. That was a Grammy winner for me. I saw Chris not too long ago, and he was saying, "Man, what is happening with you? You still look the same. I don't look the same anymore."
You do look good. I'm not going to lie to you. You do look good. You are in fantastic shape. What do you do to stay in such good shape?
Oh, I don't try a whole lot about it. I think the main thing is do what you love to do in life. And I still say, it's not anything necessarily to do about my education, although I believed in it so much that I wanted it when I was in school. But, college didn't really change my life or help me. Ray Charles did. Yes, sir, he did, because I thought if he liked what I was doing, he explained, if you'll just mingle among people you want to be around and soak everything up you can, you'll find an opportunity. And you live in America, and because I'm blind doesn't make any difference. I've always felt the whole thing is special because I'm an American.
I kind of feel like we're having church.
Yes, sir.
In a good way.
Yes,
but,
sir.
But, Ronnie, I feel like I should call you Ronnie like we're old friends because that's kind of a dream of mine.
That's good, Mike.
Ronnie, this is a message of mine. In the midst of politics and all that other stuff, is the young people who listen, I really want them to understand that you don't go into a field because you're going to make money. Because I think a lot of people probably get into music because they think, well, I'll get rich like Ronnie Milsap. You go in, I say, chase your dreams, follow your muse, do what you love, and whatever. It might be quilt making, it might be making music, it might be writing music, it might be practicing law, but do it not because you think you're going to get rich, but because it's what you love to do, and then you'll never have a day of work in your life.
That's right, exactly right. And when I first came to Nashville, I must say I had it easy, probably way too easy, because I would have done anything that I had to do. If I had to come to Nashville and sleep in somebody's garage, I would have done it. I was playing at Roger Miller's King of the Road Hotel, and there was a guy that came down there who was Charlie Pride's manager named Jack Johnson. He said, I want to manage you. So I went to talk to him on January the 3rd, 1973, and sat in his office, and he said, sign this contract. So I did, and he said, all right, Ron. He had a gravelly voice. He said, I can't make you a star. You're going to have to do that yourself.
We were talking off air about, you were talking about one of these gadgets and advancements that have been made that enable you to keep all your music and all your writings and all that stuff. Have we come a long way?
Yes, we've come a long, long way. It's interesting, though, when all this started, nobody made me learn how to use the computer. It's just I wanted to do it, and I started talking to people and learning something from talking to folks, and then getting some courses and some things in Braille and some things on tape, and eventually taught myself how to use the computer.
And so when you read now, is it in Braille or is it in audiobook?
It can be in Braille. I still like and to say I still need Braille every day of my life. A lot of young folks think they don't need Braille. The computers talk, so they don't need Braille, but you do. The real kind of the little nutty things in my life, I can keep on Braille notes in front of you and basically know everything there is to know about what's coming up and what I've got to do. What song list, if I've got a show list and I write it down in Braille, I know what I'm supposed to sing next. That's a good thing.
So that's how you do it?
Yeah.
Do you think you have a greater capacity for remembering things and holding on to things because for so long it would have been difficult to write those things down?
I know one thing. I think, in playing a lot of shows lately with Glenn Campbell has taught me how important your memory is. Glenn Campbell is such a wonderful singer and still is. He sounds so good.
He does. Did you see him honored recently at, what was it? They just had, Ramon, what was the award show that he was honored on? You'll know. The Grammys. Yeah, they had Glenn Campbell come out and perform with them, and it was the neatest deal.
He's got the teleprompters cooking, and if he misses,
he's cheating. That's not right.
If he misses a line here, he can catch it on the next.
So you got to really be good.
Yeah, that's the thing that I've always figured. As long as I know how to. If I memorize all these lyrics in my head and I know how to deliver it, then my memory's pretty good.
When you walked into the studio, we're actually in an office, and you reached down and you grabbed the microphone. You told me what kind of microphone that was.
It's an RE20, an electro voice, RE20, but that's kind of part of what I do. If I go to radio stations or studios, there's certain mics that I like a lot. This is a great dynamic mic. If I go to recording studio, I take my own microphone with me. It's a tube microphone. I prefer that.
It was amazing to me how much you knew about the microphone just from touching it. When you look at your life, and whether you like it or not, you're an inspiration to people with some disabilities. I mean,
yes.
what you've been able to accomplish. And there are a series of folks who have sort of transcended what would have held other people back. To what extent do you embrace that?
Well, I know that, my mother didn't want a blind child. I was given to my grandparents when I was a year and a day old, and thank God for them. It was a home filled with love, and thank God I had a chance to go to school in Raleigh, too, because that really gave me the tools to actually try to build a good life. And I'm very comfortable in what I do and very happy about my life, a happy person, and looking forward to going down to Longview, Texas this weekend.
Oh, is that where you're going to be?
That's where I'm headed.
Well, that's fantastic. Out on the road. We were talking about being on the road. You don't mind it.
No.
A lot of folks don't enjoy it, but
I think it's part of what you do, and you get used to it. I can't say that every time you go out there it's incredible, but usually what makes it, the best thing about what I do is the live performance. You know, if you're out there with an audience and they're tuned into what you're doing and they want to hear you sing, then it's amazing how good you can sing.
Yeah, and I sense that guys like you that love to perform, you just feed off that audience. Ronnie Milsap is our guest. What's your favorite of all your songs? 40 number one hits behind only George Strait and Conway Twitty, ahead of George Jones and Merle Haggard and Mickey Gill. It's amazing what you've been able to do. What is your favorite of your song? What's the one you most enjoy?
Lord, I don't know. I can figure out, when you played Smoky Mountain Rain a minute ago, that's one of my favorites. But that came about because I talked to my producer and I said, all these great songs, by the time I get to Phoenix, Wichita, Lyman, Galveston, I want to sing something about the Smoky Mountains. The I came back in a couple of weeks later, and they had this song, Smoky Mountain Rain. And I took it into the studio, thinking about that session with Elvis Presley back in 1969. I thought if that thunder worked on his record, it'd work on mine, too. And it sure did. Tennessee's latest state song, Smoky Mountain Rain. That's what it is.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
So that replaced Rocky Top.
Well, there are a whole lot of Tennessee songs. I think there's Tennessee Waltz and Rocky Top, Smoky Mountain Rain.
Well, that's
the first million
rewarding.
seller single for me was almost like a song, and that's always going to be very special to me. But found that song from a great songwriter and worked it up at the house in my living room at the piano and found exactly what I wanted to do with that song. My producer came over and heard it and said, we got to get into the studio and put this thing down. So we did.
Is there one that you turned away that you go, oof, that's the one that got away?
Well, I don't know. There have been some that I've turned away. There was one particular one I remember turning away. Bob Montgomery is a great publisher here in town. He had this great song. He said, I want to play this for you. This song is going to be huge, and I want you to hear it first. He put it on. He said, it must have been cold there in my shadow. I said, Bob, take it off. Take it off. So right or wrong, I turned it down.
No, that's more Bette Midler than Ronnie Milsap. I'm not sure I'd want to hear you sing
Gary
that.
Morris did a version of that. It was really good, too.
Yeah, but 40 number one hits. Do you ever just look back and say, wow.
Well, that's a great. I tell you what RCA did. They had they had departments at RCA that would tell you as an artist what you could do, and if you would do everything they tell you to do, get up and go to the radio stations at 6 a.m. and work them all day, or get in this conference room and call radio stations all day. Artist relations, if you do that, they said, here's how you can make a 20-year career in
Ronnie, are you
music.
telling me that hard work is more important to your success than a college degree?
Oh, it's
Wow.
much more important. Hard work is much more, has definitely been what it takes for me. And folks that think this job is glamorous, I mean, there are times maybe it is, but most of the time it's like everything else. It's hard work.